Welcome back. This is the Agent Workforce podcast. My name is Kristiina Åberg. I'm head of marketing at Digital Workforce, and together with me here's my co-host Niko Lehtonen. What is your current title, by the way? I noticed you had a new title, so what is it?
Yeah, yeah. Hi everyone. Yeah, it's nowadays it's been officialized, so it's AI solution architect. Somebody also said AI wizard, but I'll stick to the official one for now. Need to go through my Hogwarts studies first.
Sounds good. Yes, it's been 2 weeks since we last recorded, so this is our fourth episode. Obviously, a lot has happened again in the past 2 weeks, so lots to uncover, and we're just scratching the surface and picking some relevant topics. But obviously, we'll talk about AI agents and all things that have happened in the Gen AI space in the past few weeks. And let's kick off with the Manus. So Chinese, maybe the first general AI agent. I'm going to share my screen. So Manus, it's developed by Chinese company startup called Monica. It was announced on YouTube maybe 6 days ago or so. At least it hit my radar in the past 2-3 days. It has gone through the internet again. So all my social channels are full of analysis and commentary around Manus, and it's about, is this a new foundation model, and what is this Manus, and how can it be so amazing? So I want us to talk a little bit about this and what we know as of today. So you can go and check the website yourself. So it's manus.im. And here's the short introduction video, about 4 minutes, going through some of the use cases. But I said it was a little unclear in the beginning if we're talking about a new foundation model, but now it has emerged that it is actually built on existing tools and existing models. For instance, Claude. So it's using Claude and 29 other tools or something like that. And for the browser user, for browser use, it's using this called browser user open source for the browser control. I'm going to show some of the demos soon. So this is, to me, the first sense of a real general AI agent. So something that we've been talking about a lot, but maybe to really understand what an agent can do in the future. So you can go through some of the demos on their website. But let's start with the deeply analyze Tesla stocks. So this is one of the use cases on their website. I'm just going to play this through and so it is giving the prompt, which it starts to work on quite quickly. And as an agent, it is itself figuring out a little bit of what to do here as well. So it's not fully and only relying on the prompt itself, but it's actually being autonomy in that sense. So this is quite maybe different to what we have seen before. I'm going to jump to the final. So this is what it gives you in the end. So you can click and view a dashboard that it generates in the end. So it puts together all this information into a nice looking website, into a nice looking dashboard visually, just based on the prompt that you were asking it to do a deep analysis of the Tesla stock. So this is just like one example. There are many others. So you can go through the use cases yourself. But I mean, to me, it's wild what you can build with the existing tools as of today. So I feel that we're a little bit trapped here, that we're just always waiting for the new update from the leading frontier model companies and what's next and what's next. But the fact is that already with the existing models and creativity and really pushing the boundaries, you can build amazing things, amazing AI products, and amazing AI agents as well. So, Niko, what are your thoughts on Manus?
Yeah, I mean, looks really impressive from what I've seen. I mean, I've not tested it myself. I'm thinking of trying build this sort of pipeline and see how far I can get, since all the components have been revealed and so on. But I think as a platform, it seems like really interesting already. And there's lots of different sample videos, as you mentioned, and so on. And I think this is a great example of how agents can work in general. Sure, this is still more maybe for bit more personal use and so on. But then we have stuff like B2B supplier sourcing and all kinds of things. And these are great examples of how you can apply agentic AI into business, to the business world as well.
Yes.
Even if these are not for you, then they give you a great idea of the capabilities of all the kinds of things that you can achieve with these with relatively little effort, and how fast it is. It doesn't take 2 weeks to get a stock analysis. It takes like an hour or even less. And it's just the leap in how much time you can save with these types of things is huge. It's absolutely huge.
Yeah, it's showing the art of the possible with the current tools, I would say. As someone put it, in fact, it was Didi Das from Menlo Ventures who put it on X that Manus is a combination of deep research, operator, Claude computer use, Lovable, which is the product that you can use to create websites, which is prompt texting, and then memory. So it's all that combined in a very, very clever way. So I hope it'll open up some ideas when you go and go through the use cases and the demo videos they have on their pages. What is also what was quite interesting here is that we're talking about so-called multi-agent framework. So in fact, the user is engaging, communicating with some so-called executor agent, who's then giving the task further to the other agents in the setup. So any comments on this type of multi-agent framework, Niko?
Yeah, I mean, I instantly start comparing it to like business process orchestration and so on, because essentially you have an agent orchestrating other agents to do subtasks of what's required to do. And I see some differences in how we do things, and but basically it comes down to what kind of processes and tasks you're looking to achieve. So in this like agent orchestrating agent solution, there's some aspects that you will want to think about, like what's the level of control you need within that task. Is it one where you can allow your agent to do all this from start to finish? If it's a simple task with not that many steps and not that many data sources and so on, it's easy. It's probably an easy decision to start trying these out. For a more critical business process that maybe goes through different functions, different teams with multiple handover points, just an agent orchestrating agents is not going to be enough. You can get far with it, but it's not going to replace your whole business process the way it's currently been done. The audit trail and traceability, you can see the reasoning and everything here. But again, with a more complex business process, with lots of more different scenarios and so on, you'll probably want something more as well. And one thing that is not mentioned here, and I understand it completely, is the sort of robustness and security aspects. So if you're building pure agent solutions, it's really important to red team them just to make sure that they are built correctly, that there's no way to abuse them if it's publicly accessible and so on. So if you test the solution thoroughly, that's great. But if you don't, and there's a fault in its reasoning, whether deliberate or accidental, if you have a more structured approach, you can avoid getting your fingers burnt. So if you have an orchestration layer that you provide with the BPM tool, which is then just triggering agents to work on these specific tasks when the process so requires, it's a safer option. Let's put it that way. And this
Yeah.
way, the reach of a single agent is only limited to its core task, much like it's in this agent controlling agents. But the orchestration layer is more robust, so there are clear business rules based on which things are being triggered and so on. And if something goes wrong, it's picked up and flagged by the orchestration layer. Maybe that same agent is run again to see if there was just some access issue or whatever, or maybe a human expert is alerted to provide some additional context or pick up the task if the automation simply fails to do it. But yeah, so this is just a small example. Basically, my point is that orchestration with business process management tools ensures that the ball is never dropped. There are no exception cases where the ball just drops if you build it correctly. And even if a human expert is on a sick leave or an automation fails, you still have full visibility as to where the process is and so on. And it's not a coincidence that, again, turning this into how we do things, but we build these things with case management model notation in mind. And that as a concept is not the easiest one to grasp. It took me a while as well. I've said this in a YouTube video. It took me 6 months originally. Maybe it didn't take exactly 6 months, but it really takes a while to grasp the full context and concept of it if you're not familiar with it at all, like I wasn't originally. But understanding case management, it really unlocks another level in understanding how to orchestrate even the most complex of processes. So here you know exactly what kind of outcome you're looking for. You sort of know where you want to end up in. With a more complex business process, you might not know what the end result for that case is going to be, and so on. And combining that case management, that business process management orchestration layer with AI agents, that is an immensely powerful method of thorough end-to-end business process automation, and one that I think we're going to have a demo soon on our website as well in the very near future.
Yeah, and a very likely scenario of enterprises getting started with AI agents is using these orchestration layers as well to mitigate some of the issues that might come otherwise. So yeah, that's definitely the case. Let's jump to talk a little bit about the other model update news as well, because we have in the past few weeks got an update from ChatGPT. So we now have 4.5, which is the last non-reasoning model. Then we have Anthropic Claude 3.7. So have you been playing around with these new releases?
I did give Claude a go when I was, well, again, building an agent, but I was just creating an agent that generates case models, to be honest. There, I didn't see that much difference in that particular use case. I didn't see much difference between GPT 4.5 or even GPT 4.0, but that's because it's with a low temperature. I have a very strict prompt that I'm using just to see if there's any benefit in switching a model. If I already have a prompt that works, can I get any benefit from switching the model? There, the answer seems to be no. So in the limited testing I did, I didn't see much difference. And yeah, and even if going more into the 4.5, GPT 4.5, it is so much more expensive. It's like 15 to 30 times more expensive than 4.0. And yeah, our CTO asked me, what are these expenses you've racked up? I'm like, well, I tested 4.5 for a bit. Okay.
Yeah, that was the spike. That
Yeah,
was the spike we saw. So in the
yeah,
statistics, wasn't it?
yeah, and but I mean, it also, because it's such a huge model, it also takes longer to process. So if you want something that's like GPT 4.0 and not that reasoning, I don't know if you're going to have much use for 4.5 at this point. Maybe when researchers explore it more and find out more of the strengths it has over other models, maybe at that point. But right now, I'm not sure. There was an article on Ars Technica that I I'm not that established yet. And they did point out to this initial research that showed that 4.5 actually has fewer hallucinations than and about 10% less hallucinations compared to the next best model. And they had checked against GPT 4.0, against O1, O3 mini, and so on. So that might be one thing. But yeah, let's see. We'll see where the future takes this.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have similar experiences with 4.5. I can't really note any difference there with 4.0. So it's more or less the same, but it makes me wonder that there must be something else behind. So they must be preparing for GPT-5, which is probably going to be very, very, very different as the rumors we have heard. So it just makes me think this is just a prelude to something else. But yeah, it does perform well on some of the leaderboards and some where although they are saying that it's not a new foundation model, so it's an update 4.5, but still, I'm just showing one of the leaderboards, and this was one of the questions I had for you. So, do you use these leaderboards yourself? How do you have some that you check regularly, or how do you compare with the different models?
Yeah, I mean, the one we see here, this is on Hugging Face. It's not the one I usually use. I use the one from artificialanalysis.ai, which also is a very, very good benchmarking page, and they have lots of these sub pages there as well nowadays for different kinds of uses, and that is really good. You can modify it quite broadly and so on. Microsoft also has one inside their AI Foundry. Of course, it's only limited to the models they provide through Foundry, but that is increasing all the time. And well, on the topic of Microsoft's models, I'm going to sidetrack just a little bit to talk about Distillation, which is basically where you train small language models from large language models, because Microsoft is doing this as well right now. That's why it's slightly relevant. So whereas a large language model is a bit of a shotgun approach, that it can do a lot of different things, and it shows in the cost. Even 4.0 could cost a lot less if it was a small language model rather than a large one. So small language models are more precise. They're a sort of targeted approach. So much like we build AI agents to be specialists, so they handle certain tasks and that's it. Small language models are more precise and are specializing in certain fields, and their data set is homed in on that particular target, like email triage. And those have much, much cheaper tokens. But I don't really think that the cheapness of the tokens is what's going to drive the use of SLMs going forward, considering how cheap, for instance, GPT-4.0 is. But the big lure with these is that an SLM can be run locally on a far less capable machine. So this actually provides a non-cloud option for more enclosed environments. So if you know what you would need AI for, you distill an SLM from an LLM and run that in your own environment. I can think of many on the more public sector and more security conscious ones where this actually matters. And that's where I think these will be very useful. And as I said, Microsoft has already started doing this a bit. So if you go to the Microsoft AI Foundry, they have these Phi models that are based on GPT-4.0. And there are just a few for now, but I expect this to become more commonplace going forward, not just with OpenAI's models, but I'm guessing a lot of these providers will be jumping on this eventually when they reached a high enough level of how satisfied they are with their models.
Yeah, and if you want to read more about the differences of an LLM and small language model, you can go to agentacademy.ai. There's a blog post about this topic, and it's written by our colleague Rami Luisto, who knows a thing or two about this topic. So you can go and check that. Maybe we need to start dropping this in show notes or something, Niko, because we're sharing a lot of things here. So if people want to go and check these afterwards, so they'll find the place where to do that. So okay, let's then move on to actually voice agent. I trialed with this new voice AI agent, Sesame. Obviously, you have also advanced voice mode in ChatGPT. In the mobile app of ChatGPT, you can easily use the advanced voice mode, and it is getting quite good. So you can have a good natural conversation, and in maybe some context where you can't type, it could be natural for you to pick up the phone and to speak to the tool, to the AI, and get the results back from in that type of communications. And it's getting quite natural, so it doesn't feel like you're talking to a machine anymore. And this Sesame is also a demonstration of that. I did record a video. It's an audio record of a conversation I had with Sesame.
Well, hello again. Glad you decided to stick around. What we're talking about?
Hey, Maya. Good to
Hey
see
there.
you. Or talk to you again, I suppose.
You know, I rather like the sound of that. What brings you back to me this fine morning?
Yes. Could you help me with some good opening lines for our podcast? I don't want to repeat myself every single time. So just wondering if you could come up with some good opening lines for episode.
Ooh, another podcast? Sounds like you're getting good at this. Well, let's see. Something snappy, right? How about Welcome back to the show where we explore the surprising ways AI is changing the game. Catchy, huh?
Mm-hmm. Give some other alternatives as well.
Oh, definitely. Hang on, let me tap into those circuits. How about buckle up, it's about to get digital? Or maybe let's talk about robots, but like in a good way.
Yeah, why not? Okay, but thanks for your help. Bye.
Hey, anytime. Happy podcasting. You never know, maybe I'll be a guest someday.
Yeah, who knows? Thanks. Bye.
Later.
Maybe we will invite Sesame, Niko. What do you think? Should we bring in one of these AI guests as well?
Yeah, I think that would be really interesting seeing how it interacts with us while we're already having a dialogue. How do we bring that one in when we need it and so on, so it doesn't interfere with what we want to do and so
Yeah.
on. But yeah, what I wanted to say is that indeed this is live speech synthesization and not text to speech or anything like that. So this is
It
really
is.
impressive. I've seen a couple examples and it's the way it
Yes,
sounds is so close. It's really hard to distinguish. Like I couldn't
it
distinguish
is.
it, I have to say.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is. And the pauses and all that. So, and it also might open up some ideas what comes to AI agents and particularly voice AI agents. And in your context and work context, how could you use voice in the context of AI agents? So we have already entered the era of multimodality and multimodal agents and multimodal generative AI, but I don't think we have quite grasped that yet. All the opportunities, I haven't at least. I'm not so used to talking to these models or just picking up my phone and turning into a video format and asking, what is this and how can you help me with this particular task? But those functionalities exist already in these tools. So it's pretty mind-blowing, which takes me to Andrei Karpathy. Needs no introduction, but for those of you who don't maybe know him, he's one of the co-founders of OpenAI and worked for Tesla as well, and then went back to OpenAI and left in 2024 to start his own personal projects. He's now working on a school, AI-related school called Eureka Labs. But maybe he's practicing his educational skills, but he has done many very good YouTube videos. And I think, Niko, you mentioned you had watched the first one of these general awareness pieces, which was I can't remember how it was called, but maybe
Yeah,
we
there
can
was
see.
one about how LLMs function in general, and that was really good. It was by no means the first one he's made, but first one I watched. Yeah,
Yes.
really well done. Not going to say I learned many new things, but I think for people who don't know about this topic and want to understand on a technical level, it is really good. It's 2 hours, but you're going to learn more than if you spent 5 hours somewhere else.
Yeah, and this is the second part of that series, I think, how I use LLMs. And I'm not going to play this fully. It's again like 2 hours, 2 hours 11 minutes to be precise. But this is such an amazing clip, so I really recommend you guys go and spend the 2 hours with this. Maybe you can speed it up a bit and listen with 1.25 or so, but still, it's so worth listening. I know something about these as well, but it was still very, very good go through of all the functionalities that we have in the current LLMs and the different models that we have and how to use what and all that. So, and also on top of that, he's giving practical examples how he is one of the leading voices in the space in Gen AI is using LLMs as of today. So you understand what are the limitations, what are the possibilities, what are the use cases that he is using LLMs as of today. So this is an example of a section where he's talking about multimodality and in the sense of inserting images into the tools and how to interact with when you insert images. And I'm gonna play out a little piece here. So.
And this is a very good example. And I uploaded little screenshots of my lipid panel. And then I made sure that ChatGPT sees all the correct results. And then it actually gives me an interpretation. And then I kind of iterated, and you can see that the scroll bar here is very low because I uploaded piece by piece all of my blood test results, which are great, by the way. I was very happy with this blood test. So what I wanted to say is, number one, pay attention to the transcription and make sure that it's correct. And number two, it is very easy to do this because on MacBook, for example, you can do Control-Shift-Command-4, and you can draw a window, and it copy pastes that window into a clipboard. And then you can just go to your ChatGPT and you can Control-V or Command-V to paste it in, and you can ask about that. So it's very easy to like take chunks of your screen and ask questions about them using this technique. And then the other thing I would say about this is that, of course, this is medical information and you don't want it to be wrong. I will say that in the case of blood test results, I feel more confident trusting ChatGPT a bit more because this is not something esoteric. I do expect there to be like tons and tons of documents about blood test results. And I do expect that the knowledge of the model is good enough that it kind of understands these numbers, these ranges, and I can tell it more about myself and all this kind of stuff. So I do think that it is quite good. But of course, you probably want to talk to an actual doctor as well. But I think this is a really good first draft and something that maybe gives you things to talk about with your doctor, etc.
Okay, I'm gonna pause it there. So, and I'm not recommending people to enter their medical information into ChatGPT, but that's many people are doing. Of course, there's this. This is from one of the leading news outlets or business newspapers in Finland, which says pretty much that warning, don't ask this from ChatGPT. And it's saying that according to a study in Australia, a lot of people are using ChatGPT for their medical queries and entering their medical information into ChatGPT and asking questions from it. And of course, you need to be very mindful and understand what you're doing and all that. But it's in this video, in what Karpathy is doing, he's explaining quite well that why it might give you actually quite good results and good information back. So what it could be reliable, whereas some other type of queries it might not be so. But anyways, I really recommend you guys watch this whole clip. It'll take you 2 hours 11 minutes, but it's going to be worth it. I guarantee.
Yeah, I just want to add a couple of things. So yes, definitely watch it. You'll learn about tools you might not have used before. You'll see how they're being used, how easy it is to use them. It's not a magic trick. But yeah, on the use of ChatGPT and so on, just want to go back to something we mentioned last week. So last week I mentioned briefly that there was this case in the States where some lawyers had again used hallucinated cases as a backup for their case. And there was another story last week around that where the judge actually fined them for $15,000. Why I'm bringing this up now is what the judge said in the final notes, because it's so good. Much like a chainsaw or other useful but potentially dangerous tools, one must understand the tools they are using and use those tools with caution. It should go without saying that any use of artificial intelligence must be consistent with Council's ethical and professional obligations. In other words, the use of artificial intelligence must be accompanied by the application of actual intelligence in its execution. So don't trust these things blindly. Apply critical thinking. That's the way to go.
That is a great way to finish our conversation today, and absolutely 100% sure. So you have to be very careful and fact check and be mindful and not trust the output fully at this point. That's for sure. So thank you again for joining. Really great chatting with you, Niko. Again, I remind you guys of the agentacademy.ai. Over 600 people have already registered to our courses, and most of them have completed them as well. So if you haven't done so yet, you can go and visit agentacademy.ai. We have a free of charge course there, and then we have an advanced course for the analyst and something new coming up very, very soon. So that's it for now. Thank you so much, Niko. It was wonderful to talk to you, and have a great day all, and speak to you soon again.
Likewise. Thanks, Kristiina. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
See ya.
Take care. Bye.